It was supposed to be an ordinary overnight freight run from Calgary to Vancouver, a routine journey through the Rockies that hundreds of trains had made before. But on March 14, 1972, something went terribly wrong. A Canadian Pacific freight train, Train 117, carrying 21 crew members, entered the Fraser Canyon tunnel system and was never seen emerging from the other side. No explosion, no wreckage, no distress call, just silence. For decades, investigators, families, and railway workers have tried to uncover what really happened that night, but every answer only leads to more questions. If you're fascinated by real unsolved cases and stories that history tried to forget, you'll want to follow this journey to the very end. And make sure to subscribe, because this is only one of many forgotten mysteries that deserve to be heard again. Beneath the myths and the silence lies something far more human, a story of warning signs ignored, lives lost, and a mountain that never gave back what it took. The Fraser Canyon Line was among the most treacherous in Canada, a narrow rail corridor carved into mountain walls, where snowmelt turned rock into mud and avalanches could bury a locomotive in seconds. In the early 1970s, safety systems were primitive. Radio signals barely carried through tunnels, and trains often relied on timing and manual reports from signal houses. Train 117 was scheduled to pass through Mount McDonald Tunnel just after midnight, hauling 48 cars of mixed freight, including refrigerated cargo, fuel tanks, and steel. The weather reports warned of a storm approaching from the Pacific, but the dispatcher cleared the train anyway. That decision would haunt everyone involved. At 12:13 a.m., radio logs recorded a brief transmission from engineer Thomas Gray, the train's captain for the night. "Visibility's dropping quick. Entering the canyon now. Will report after Tunnel 9. That was the last anyone ever heard from him. When the train failed to appear at the Lytton signal station 23 minutes later, operators assumed a delay. Freight trains often slowed to manage grades. But as dawn broke and no visual confirmation came, concern grew. By 6 a.m., dispatchers declared an emergency and launched a search. Canadian Pacific dispatched 5 search teams, including helicopters and mountain patrols. What they found defied logic. The train's entry timestamp at the canyon checkpoint was confirmed by multiple logs. Cameras captured its headlights entering Tunnel 9, but there was no exit record. On the far side, the sensors never triggered. Teams combed both tunnel entrances, the adjacent riverbanks, and nearby service tracks. Not a single fragment of debris, no oil slicks, no broken rails. Even more puzzling, no sign of a derailment alert, no fresh scarring on the rock walls. By the third day, the operation expanded to the Fraser River, under the assumption the train might have plunged into the water during a landslide. But the river's current, swollen by rain, yielded nothing. Not a crate, not one piece of identifiable metal. With no wreckage to recover, the official investigation faced immense pressure. Families of the missing crew demanded answers. Newspapers ran sensational headlines. Train vanishes into the mountain. 21 men lost. Theories flooded in, from rock collapse to secret military involvement to an alleged diversion track used for experimental cargo. But internal memos from Canada Transport, later declassified in the 1990s, painted a far simpler and darker picture. The line had been showing signs of instability for months. Engineers had requested reinforcement of the tunnel's south entrance after discovering microfractures in February 1972. The request was marked low priority. When a heavy freight like Train 117 passed through, those weak points could have collapsed silently, sealing the train inside. In 1989, a hydroelectric project near the canyon exposed a sealed cavity roughly 60 meters underground, directly beneath the old Tunnel 9 alignment. A partial cross-section of rusted rail, twisted like wire, was found embedded in the rock. Metallurgical testing dated it to the early 1970s, a near match to Canadian Pacific standard gauge from that period. The discovery never reached major news outlets. The contractor filed it under historical debris, but the recovered fragments, analyzed later by geologists, supported what some investigators had long suspected. A subterranean collapse during heavy rain likely forced a section of the tunnel downward, entombing the train deep under rock layers and flood sediment. If true, Train 117 never exited because it couldn't. It remained, and still remains, sealed beneath the mountain. Families of the crew, 21 men aged between 22 and 59, never received closure. Canadian Pacific quietly settled most claims by 1974, citing acts of nature. But the personal letters preserved in the Calgary Historical Archive reveal a haunting pattern. Engineer Gray had written to his wife 2 days before departure. "They're pushing us to move faster. The tracks still shift when the rain hits. It's not safe through the tunnels." Conductor Joseph Callum noted in his notebook, later found in the dispatch locker, "No one listens until something gives." It did. In 1997, a journalist named Evelyn Devereaux revisited the case for a CBC special titled "The Night the Tracks Went Silent." She interviewed retired dispatchers, maintenance workers, and the last surviving signal operator from the route. All described the same sound that night: a deep rumble, a flash, then nothing. The mountain took everything: the crew, the cargo, and even the tracks themselves. Today, the section of the canyon where the tunnel once ran is sealed and off-limits, marked only by a small memorial plaque near the edge of the old service road. Few tourists know what lies beneath. The story exists only in archives, yellowed documents, and the fading memories of those who still remember the night the tracks went silent.